The next tree I'll be working on is my Natal Ficus. Here's a view of my Natal Ficus, and last year was a big year for this tree. I did a repotting towards the end of August where I removed almost all the roots on the tree and kind of planted it as a cutting. The roots that I left on the tree were very small and they still weren't very good. So I'm hoping, the tree's recovered. I'm hoping it's starting to develop a nice radial root base. But we'll see what it looks like next time I go to repot the tree. I also reduced the top of the tree over the summer, picking my best branches to try and get a basic branch structure started. So the start of a kind of umbrella canopy for this tropical tree. So today you can see there's a lot of shoots that have come out from the trunk. They're getting quite long. So I'll need to pick out my best branches once again, removing the ones I don't want, to further develop this tree into the future. This was the front of the tree I picked last time I worked on it, and it already has a lot of scars on the trunk where I've removed roots and branches, and I don't want any further scars on it. So there's a couple of lower branches here, and even though they help contribute to the thickness of the trunk, if I let them grow really long, it would help thicken the trunk up. But it also, when I remove them, would leave a fairly large scar. So I want this trunk to be eventually scarless. So as it all heals, it'll all smoothen up. And so I don't want any further scarring, so I'm going to remove these lowest branches. All right, here I go. I'll take the top one off first, like that, and then this one, like that. I've got some small shoots that are growing up from the root base here. So I'll need to prune those off. I don't want those to develop. I don't want a clump style bonsai. So those are pruned off. Looking at the top of the tree, this is what I would call an explosion of growth, where growth is just coming out in all directions. I have to pick the branches that I want to keep, and I won't be pruning the ones that I want to keep because I want them to thicken up more. The branches I don't want, I'll prune them away. There's a branch here that's died off. It's just a dead stump now, so I'll remove that first. I'll just kind of clean up that area. So I'll come in here and prune it flush, like that. That looks good. My goal with this tree at this point in time is to develop my upright structure. So I've got a nice thick trunk, and I want it to divide from the one trunk into 2 or maybe 3 branches to start forming that canopy. That's all I want to do. So I want to grow those 2 or 3 branches as tall as I can to thicken them up and get that secondary structure underway. The trunk on this tree comes up, and then it comes to the right-hand side, and it's been very thick, and it was chopped off at this point. So I'm trying to grow branches on this side of the tree to kind of eventually blend in with the trunk. I'm also developing a branch to the left-hand side here to kind of counteract the mass on this side to eventually create an umbrella-style canopy. In order to develop that upright structure, that initial upright structure, I'll need to remove all these horizontal branches or the ones that are drooping down. And I just want all the growth to be concentrated into that upright trunk structure. I'm down low looking at the tree, and I'll begin to remove all these branches that I don't want to develop into trunks. Snipping them away. So all the resources of the roots will go into growing the trunks that I want to keep. This is a good strong shoot here to develop. There's another one coming out the back. I may keep both of them at this present time. And I'm just basically pruning away everything else. All that horizontal branch structure will come at a later date once I've developed my upright trunk structure. So even out the back here, I've got a lot of shoots that are just not upright and don't need to be developed yet. This is a long-term process, developing the basic structure of a tree from basically a stump. I've got one growing on the inside here I could remove. Like that. Any branching coming off these upright trunks I can keep, and that'll help develop them more. So I'm just cleaning up this structure now. One growing in towards the center of the tree that can come off. There's a duplicate branch here that can be removed. When I'm done, there won't be much left of the tree. It'll just be sort of that basic, just going to remove a leaf here so you can see the trunk line. That'll just be the basic structure that'll continue to grow. Here I've got a more vertical trunk, and then I got one more horizontal growing towards the back of the tree. I don't want to develop that one going to the back. It looks funny. It's growing at a strange angle. It's got to come right off. So I'll just take the branch off roughly at first, like that. And then I'll come in and clean it up. That's looking much better. That's looking good. There's another branch coming out the back here. It's not too bad. It's a little too horizontal, but I'll prune off these drooping branches. Like that. And I'll see if I can get it to grow a little more upright. Just getting rid of some of the finer branches. I'll remove this one. And I'll cut it back to this kind of upright growth. It's not a very smooth transition here. You can see it from the side view. This branch comes, almost horizontal, then it shoots straight up. But hopefully I'll get something to develop and I can, train this as more of an upright type branch. It'll start growing vertical and eventually blend in and look good. That's the goal. I'm going to remove this. Even though this branch is attached to the one I want to develop, it's kind of growing across the others. I just want to clean up this basic structure so I can see it better. So I'll remove that one. And there's another one really low here I'll remove. There's a couple of leaves I'll remove here also. I think it's important to be able to see the future vision of the structure. Seeing this basic form here. So you can develop in the future so you don't forget, oh yeah, what was I doing here? You can always see that basic structure. So I'm liking all that. I'm not so sure about that branch out the back, but I'm going to leave it on for now. It is at the back, and if I have to cut it off later, the scar will be at the back of the tree and it won't be as noticeable. And there's lots of scars here anyway, so if we go back to the front of the tree, you can kind of see I have my basic structure coming off this direction, another one branch coming here, and someday it'll develop this nice upright branch structure and form a canopy. This tree doesn't look like much yet, but it's come such a long way from when I first got it. It had all those gnarled bulbous roots at the bottom. It had all these branches going strange directions. It's still got a lot of heavy pruning cuts on the trunk where it's just been, a cut off stump. But there's a basic structure in place now. I've begun to sort out that root structure. So next time I repot it, I think it'll get even better. Someday we'll start to see a nice flared root base, nice set of radial roots, and we'll get that nice upright branch structure to develop our canopy and, the primary trunk, secondary branch structure, tertiary branch structure, and then even finer branches coming off of that. So I think, even though it doesn't look like much today, it's sort of begun its journey as a bonsai, getting that basic structure and basic form. I'll give the tree a watering and start work on the next tree. That should be good. The next tree I'll be working on is my Ginseng Ficus that's planted in a 3D printed Vietnam style pot. I pruned all the branch structure back and defoliated it, and now all the new growth is just starting to come in. So I've got to manage that growth, picking the branches I want to keep and removing the ones that I don't want. When you hard prune a ficus, this is exactly the kind of growth you want, where it just explodes and new shoots everywhere. That allows you to go in and pick the branches you want to keep and prune off the ones that aren't growing in a good direction. Here's a good example of some clip and grow branch selection. I pruned off this branch here, and I've got 2 new shoots each side, but I also have 2 shoots down lower. So I have the option of developing these 2 branches or the ones down lower. I think I will stick to these 2 shoots and just maybe prune off the one that's growing in towards the center of the tree here, like that. So a bit of branch selection. And with clip and grow, you know, you prune a branch off and it gives you more options once the new shoots grow in to redirect the branch direction. You'll notice the branch gets a change of direction, a change of taper, and the emergence angle of the new branches is very natural looking, because it is natural that this branch grew here all by itself. It wasn't wired into that position or directed into that position with guy wires or anything. I'll just clean up the tip of that branch. I think that branch is okay there for now. It's not really growing from the inside of this bend, but it's not too bad. I'll keep it. I'll clean up this stub here. I've got one branch growing out the front here. You can see there's a new little shoot growing off of it here. It's a little long compared to the other branches, so I'm going to prune it back. I'll leave some growth on it. Prune it back to there, and I've got one out the back here also that I want to prune back. These are the more vigorous branches that are developing. So I want to always balance the vigor of the tree. The new growth is looking good on the tree. I'm just going to rotate it around, and I'm looking for branches that I don't like. There's one growing in between 2 branches here that should be removed, like that. Another one growing between 2 branches there. Just cleaning that out. Just clean that cut up there. There we go. There's a branch here that's growing across the top of another branch. I'll remove that one, like that. I'm going to keep some of the shoots growing more vertical from the inside here. They're not growing in towards the center of the tree, but they're coming from the inside of the branch and growing vertical. And those will eventually be the top of my canopy. And the reason I develop those last is that anything vertical on a tree grows with much more vigor than a branch that, you know, is more horizontal. So the more horizontal a branch, the slower it grows, and the more vertical a branch, the faster it grows. So I develop these branches that splay out first, and then I develop my upright kind of branches last. And that kind of equalizes the vigor so that my horizontal branches, they grow first and they thicken up. And then my vertical ones, which thicken up even faster, I grow those last up the center. And that gives a nice balanced crown to the tree. After you get it to that stage where you have a nice balanced crown, you're always fighting to keep that equal vigor, to keep, you know, your vertical trunks sort of the same diameter and thickness as your more horizontal ones. And it's a constant battle to maintain equal vigor on the top of your tree. It's just something that is the challenge of bonsai. Yeah, everything else is looking pretty good. Maybe this one in here I'll remove. It's just kind of growing over top of another branch. Yeah, I think that'll be it for now. I'll continue to develop the branch structure on this Ginseng Ficus, trying to keep the canopy compact, not letting it get too tall, but getting a nice wide spreading umbrella canopy on it. So lots of work to go in the future on this tree, but it started off as a house plant, and It's almost starting to look like a bonsai. It's someday it'll look like a mature tree in miniature, I hope. I'll also give my Ginseng Ficus a good watering, fertilization, and misting before it goes back on the bench. Also watering this ground underneath it because I have aerial roots growing down into the ground. There's a thick one at the back that's escaped here and grows down into the ground. So to keep that alive, I have to water both the top of the tree, the pot, and the ground surface. Okay. And then I'll give the tree a good misting. And it can go back on the bench. It's time now to check in on the 1972 Ford F-250 crew cab truck, the one I'll be using in the orchard. So let's head out to St. Mary's for the weekly update. I'm out in St. Mary's at All Equip for the weekly truck update. So let's go in and have a look. I'm in the shop now. Let's have a look. There has been some changes here. The frame has been painted and it looks really good. They said they put a nice thick layer of paint on here, so it should last for many, many years, longer than I will. So here's some of the updates. This was the spring bracket that was a little iffy. They had that off, so they repaired all that and got that back on. The new brackets are in place for this cross member down here. Really solid looking, and both sides there. Yeah, really, really solid. So everything's painted on the frame. They painted inside the bumpers to keep them from rusting out from the inside. And we've left the outside just with the natural patina, the rust, and the kind of off-white paint, ivory colored paint. So that looks really good. The tires are in, but they're not on yet. George just didn't get time to get them put on yet, but that'll be coming up. Yeah, so it looks really nice. Really, really good. I think, you know, when I get in this truck, I'll have to take my shoes off so I don't get any dirt in the interior. It'll be that nice. No, it won't be that ridiculous. So the cab is also done. You can see the cab mounts. They were on last week, but it's all seam sealed. They've got some primer on there. They will be painting the cab with the... they're going to try and match the original paint color. That kind of matte, semi-gloss look to the truck. As close as they can. So when this truck is all finished, it'll look the same as when I brought it in, except everything will be nice on it. It'll be, you know, no holes in it. Everything will be painted nicely, but visually it'll look very similar. So the inside is all sealed and primed. No more holes in the truck. Wonderful. Oh, steering sounds a little rough there. Yeah, looks really good. Look at that. Really nice job. I think it was Clint who did all the sheet metal work on it. Did a really nice job. Yeah, there's the cab corners. And underneath, they've primed the cross member. That's all fixed up. It's all ready to go on. There's the front of the truck. Hey, looking good. Painted this piece to match. Yeah, it'll look really, really fantastic. The bed is upside down at the moment, and that is because they've been working on these cross members in the back of the bed. So you can see new pieces put in at all the mounting points there, and a whole new cross member put across the mid part of the bed. They fabricated that here. They have bending brakes and everything. So that looks really good, and it looks just like the factory one. These are the fenders. They've both been repaired. Look fantastic. They just amazing. Just look fantastic. There's the inside of the fender here, and that's the outside. So everything is coming together slowly. I could spend more money and fix the fender wells or the wheel wells inside this bed. They've been all dented in to fit an extra set of spare tires in the back, but I got to draw the line somewhere. I think, you know, I'm getting, same with the tailgate, you know, I could get that fixed, but I've got to draw the line somewhere on where we stop, you know, making this a functional truck versus a show truck. So it looks really good. So that's the update for this week. It has come a long way, and George is thinking when I come in next week that there'll be a lot of assembly work done, that the cab, possibly the bed and everything might be going back on the truck, the new tires, everything. So I think it'll happen quickly. So one thing I forgot to mention, that some of the wiring here, it was really old and brittle, and when it gets shot with a sandblaster, it peels all the insulation off it. So they're going to run new wiring in the truck from front to rear. There's not much wiring. There's just the brake lights, the running lights. I think that's it. There's very little electronics in this vehicle. We are putting the 1-inch lift kit in it, so it'll just raise it, you know, just enough. And a couple of reasons I want that lift kit is I just want a little clearance between the cab and the frame, and I think it'll make it last longer. It'll be easy to clean in there, to get mud and stuff out of there, and I think it'll, you know, you won't get those pockets where moisture is trapped inside there. And it'll also give the new tires just a little bit more clearance. I think it'll look good with just a small lift on the body. We'll see anyway. So that's the update for the end of January 2020. That's the end of part 2 of this series. I've got lots more trees to work on, so I'll continue this series in part 3. Thanks for joining me. I'm Nigel Saunders. I'll see you next time here in the Bonsai Zone.